How can we be like Philip and just learn to ask questions to help us get to the heart of people's lives, to get beyond the surface? You know, I was reading a book called The Tech Wise Family, and it says that the average conversation takes 7 minutes to get to anything meaningful. Like, it's always superficial. How was your day? How was work? Fine, good. All these sorts of things. And so it takes 7 minutes or more to get below the surface in a conversation. And what helps that is by asking good questions, by digging deeper, by dialoguing, by not jumping on our smartphone whenever we're feeling that awkward tension of we're moving this conversation too deep. And so that's where these hats come from. When you're around somebody who is, you're dialoguing with them and you're trying to get to the heart of what's going on in their lives, there are different kinds of questions you can ask. So let me kind of just give me some grace as we walk through this. The first kind of questions we can ask are like Fisherman's Hat. It's just a visual aid to remember it and a kind of a creepy mannequin face. The Fisherman's Hat. When you have a fisherman's hat on, you are fishing for their point of view and their perspective. You're looking to understand what is their perspective on church, on faith, on Jesus, on God. Where are they coming from? Because chances are your conversation with somebody is not the first conversation they've had or the first exposure they've had. So you're fishing, you're kind of casting lines out, if you will, to understand where are they coming from, what's their perspective. And so we have the fisherman's hat. This guy's hat, this is the reporter's hat. The reporter's always looking for a story, right? You want to get your next big break. And so when you're fishing for perspectives, but the reporter's hat is looking for a story. He's trying to understand the history here. So it might be a question like, tell me a story about the last time you went to church. Tell me a story about the last time you thought about your faith. Tell me what was going on in your life. Or tell me a story. We're always looking for stories. So the fisherman's hat, we're fishing for perspective and their point of view. The reporter's hat, we're asking questions about stories. Tell me about a story about when this happened, when that happened. The pilot's hat, we're looking for a direction to go. We're looking for where are we heading. I know it gets a little silly here, but trust me, you'll remember these because of these fun little hats. The pilot's hat is always trying to help them understand where they're headed. Plane's always going someplace or it's in trouble. And so where are we headed? Like, where is the path you're on taking you? What's the direction of your life going? Where will this lead to down the road? Where do you see yourself in 5 years with this? That's what we're looking for direction here. So we're fishing for a perspective. We're digging for stories. We're looking for direction. We have our surgical hat or our physician's hat. This is the one that's trying to make a diagnosis here, an analysis of what's going on. When I take Jackson to the doctor, they're trying to figure out, is his leg broken or is he just a kid that jumped off the couch? He was just a kid that jumped off the couch. But the physician's hat is trying to help them understand what's good about what's going on, what's weak about what's going on, how their life's going right now. They're processing the good and processing the difficult. So you're trying to analyze what's going on. So you're asking questions like, what do you think is a strength here right now? Or what is a struggle for you right now? Those sorts of questions. And then our last hat, I know I'm going quickly, is our builder hat. This one doesn't happen very often in gospel conversations. This is kind of like the next, you're trying to build next steps for people. You're asking, hey, let's talk about 3 things you can do to improve on this. Or what are 3 things you need to do to help understand faith? Maybe you need to talk to somebody besides me about your faith. Maybe you need to read the Gospel of John. Maybe you should go check out a church Sunday morning. So you're trying to build frameworks and action steps. And so these are just different kinds of questions, and I want to illustrate it here for you. So you're fishing for perspectives. You're looking to understand their point of view. You're looking for stories that make up. You're reporting on stories. You're trying to help them understand the direction of their life. You're trying to help them analyze the strengths and weaknesses going on right now. And then you're trying to help them build action steps. Those are all very different kinds of questions. But I had a gospel conversation with a guy, a really long one, almost an hour, on an airplane a few months ago. But here's how this conversation went. He asked me. They always ask me. So what are you stuck on this airplane for? And I say, well, I'm working to help plant churches around North America, and I'm planting one myself in the Bel Air, Harford County area. He goes, that's cool. Why are you starting more churches? I thought churches are kind of a waste, aren't they? Oh, okay. And so my immediate gut response is, you calling my work a waste? You calling what I've given my life to a waste? But what I decided to do is I decided to put on the fisherman hat. Why do you feel like churches are a waste of space in a community? What makes you think that way? I'm fishing for his perspective. Why do you believe that? And he told me, well, they consume and they consume and they consume and they give nothing back. And so then I decided to put on the reporter hat. And I said, well, tell me a story about have you been to church before? Have you been to a church that you've seen this kind of like this waste? And come to find out, we started digging a little bit more, and he told me a story. He grew up in a very nominally Catholic. And so his picture of church was, I show up once in a while to Mass. My dad has to pay his parish money, his parish dues, and all we do is fuel an institution that he saw no impact in their community. So his perspective came from a story of growing up nominally Catholic. So then I decided to start asking him questions about the analyst hat. I started to put on the doctor's physician hat. And I said, well, here's what our church is trying to do. We do 40 different outreach events a year in the community, in neighborhoods. We support our local school this way. And I'm not boasting on our church, but I'm beginning to just unpack for him the kind of church we want to be. And I said, what do you think about that compared to what you remember as your perspective? And he goes, well, it's very different than what I grew up with. And so then we began talking about, well, we believe Jesus wants us to live like this because I shared the gospel with him. And I said, how about your life right now? Where do you see faith in your life right now? Where are you heading in your life? He kind of told me some quick things. And then the conversation started to shut down at this point. He wasn't ready to make a decision for Christ. But that conversation lasted about 45 minutes, where if I had not been asking questions, it would have been done in 2. And we would have both left angry at each other. Good questions can help discover what's going on. We fish for perspectives. We ask for stories. We talk about the direction of their life. We start to analyze or make a diagnosis of what's going on, and we help them diagnose their own hearts, and then we kind of help them build what's next for their lives. So I know that might seem a little bit heavy right now or trainee, but if we can learn to ask really good questions, we can learn to have really good conversations about Jesus Christ.